What's going on, guys? Coach Carr here, bringing you another video. This one is on quadrilaterals, page 17. So it's proving with these different coordinates where what shape it is. So I hope you enjoy. The success criteria is I'll be successful when I can prove what quadrilateral it is based on the coordinates given. And this comes from the learning target from G-GPE 2.4, where we use coordinates to prove simple geometric theorems algebraically. Okay, so now we are looking at page 17. They want us to prove that quadrilateral ABCD is a square. If A is at -1, 0, B is at 3, 3, C is at 6, -1, and D is at 2, -4. So first thing, the claim, what properties do you need to prove that it is a square? So the properties that are going to be important to us is that sides will have to be congruent. So sides congruent. So that's telling us that they have to be equal to each other. And the other thing that's important to us is that they are also perpendicular. And the reason why this is important is because every angle inside a square has to be 90 degrees. So that's why that's important to us. So let's say if I'm just going to draw what would resemble a square and label it with the letters that they have. So remember, with the letters that they have, you have to make sure you go in the same order. So A, B, C, D. If I were to prove that AB and BC were both congruent and perpendicular, that would be enough to prove that it's a square, because these are the main things I need to prove. So first, let's see mathematically how we can say the sides are congruent. The way we're going to do this is by using distance formula. And distance formula is going to let us know that the sides are equal to each other. So the formula is inside the square root, you have x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. That's the formula we're going to use. So first, let's go ahead and find AB. Now, it does not matter which one you make x1, y1 and which one you make x2, y2. You just have to be consistent with whatever you do. So if I'm going to find AB first, I'm going to make this my first one, that first number that goes in. This will be my second. So inside the square root, so -1 minus 3, close the parentheses, squared, plus 0 minus 3, close the parentheses, squared. -1 minus 3 is -4. So -4 squared plus 0 minus 3 is -3 squared. Now let's square them. 4 squared is 16. Forgot to put it over the square root. And -3 squared is 9. So now you can add them together. 16 plus 9 is 25. And when I do the square root of 25, I get 5. So the length of AB is in fact 5. So to prove that the sides are congruent, that means BC is also going to have a length of 5. So let's go ahead and start looking for BC. So I'm going to make B the first number, C the second number that goes in. So 3 minus 6, close the parentheses, squared, plus 3 minus negative 1, close the parentheses, squared. So 3 minus 6 is negative 3 squared. 3 minus a negative is the same thing as saying they're adding together, because I have to change the sign. So 3 plus 1 is 4. So you have 4 squared. So now, negative 3 squared is 9. 4 squared is 16. Now I can add those together, get the square root of 25. And the square root of 25 is in fact 5. So the length of BC is equal to 5. So we just prove that the sides are congruent by using distance formula. Now, the other thing we said we needed to prove is that they are perpendicular. So in order to prove that they are perpendicular, we're going to have to use slope. So remember, slope is your y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So it doesn't matter which one you make your x1 y1 and which one you make your x2 y2. Main thing is you're just consistent. So I'm going to make A, when I look for AB, I'm going to make A be the first numbers that show up there, and B will be the second numbers. So 0 minus 3 over negative 1 minus 3. When I do this, I get negative 3 over negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4. When they are both negative, so when you're dividing two negatives, it turns positive. So the slope of AB is equal to 3 over 4. So in order to be perpendicular, we're going to have to see it do the opposite and reciprocal. So it changes sign, so it would have to be negative. And reciprocal tells us it's going to flip. So it should become negative 4 over 3 if it is perpendicular. So when I find BC, I'm going to use this one. I'm going to make B be the first numbers, C be the second numbers. So if I did this one, I would have 3 minus a negative 1 over 3 minus 6. When I do this, remember that minus a negative means it's going to change signs. So really you have 3 plus 1. So 4 over 3 minus 6 is negative 3. So BC has a slope of negative 4 over 3, which that would be the opposite reciprocal, so it is in fact perpendicular. Okay, so I'm going to move this up slightly so that we can do the graph, and then we'll do the interpretation. So in the graph, A is supposed to be at negative 1, 0, so to the left 1, and you're not going to go up or down. That is A. B is at 3, 3, so to the right 3, up 3. That is B. C is at 6, negative 1, so to the right 6, down 1. That is C. And D is at 2, negative 4, so to the right 2, down 4, and that is D. So I am going to connect these. And what you're probably noticing is that this graph looks like it probably is a square. And the math that we did before it actually shows that it truly is a square. So for the interpretation, what does the evidence show? The evidence shows that it is a square. So so does it support your claim? Our claim was if the sides are congruent and they're perpendicular, it's going to be a square. So the evidence that we did by doing the distance formula and slope showed us that it is a square, and the reason is because AB and BC are congruent and perpendicular. So this is the type of things you're going to need to do for these types of proofs. So you have to give a claim, show math evidence, graph it, and then give your interpretation. Thank you so much for watching. That's the end of this video. So your exit slip number 5 is actually going to be a random problem from your notes between pages 18 through 28. So I will assign you that after you show me your notes. So depending on what you get on the random number generator, you'll have a different problem. So thank you. Make sure you ring that bell, get those post notifications, and have a good one.